But I, on the other side, see the value of reduction, not reductionism, but reduction. That's the point. There is a value in it to have all these details, but we have to make the step, and that's what you are asking for, the next step to integrate this and to see things from the viewpoint of the whole. And then we have an overview to see the details and the whole together.
Well, but what I'm saying is that reduction is not the proper way of understanding reality. I'm not saying that doesn't mean that there are not parts and that we can study the parts. Of course, it means there are parts. If we speak of wholes, we can speak of parts. But the point is that we cannot understand the whole in terms of the parts. That's reductionism.
Yeah, okay.
We cannot.
That's my difference. That's my difference between reduction and reductionism.
I see.
Yeah.
I'm not quite clear what that means, but anyhow.
So I think reduction is to acknowledge that the part is a part of a whole. And now let's just look at the part, fully cognizant that it's a part of a whole.
Okay.
Learn about it. And then when we learn about that part, automatically it's time to reintegrate it into the whole. Something like that. Where reductionism is, forget about the whole, there is no whole, it's just parts, and then we can play Legos and build the whole afterwards. But he's rejecting that as reductionism. Reduction is to say, it's a part of a whole, let's understand the part, and then understand its function in the whole.
But I say we can't understand the part without understanding its relationship with the whole. That has to be intrinsic to our understanding of the part. We cannot falsely imagine that the part can be understood as a part without understanding what it's a part of.
So you're suggesting that
I don't think these two options are mutually exclusive. I think they can coexist. I think that's the point.
You're making some emphasis that, though, the process of reduction should start not just an ambiguous acknowledgement that a part is a part of a whole, but what is the detail of that relation first? You have to start with the relation of part to whole. And then once you have that relation established, then from there only you can have a real idea of what the part is. But you have to start with the relation, and then you can reduce.
Yeah.
Dialect, that's the dialectic. Dialectic means don't just try to understand things from their half-sidedly, one-sidedly. This is the problem. We have to understand the whole. We have to understand from both sides. Just like a thing is not merely a thing. A thing is also a thought. Electron, what is an electron? How do you think electrons started? Did electron produce a thought of electron? Or did the thought produce the idea? Did it produce the observation of electron? Einstein once said, he said, it's not the experiment that determines the theory. It's the theory that determines the experiment. Unless you know what you're looking for, you won't find it. So the electron is starting off as a thought. And then we observe. So everything, this was Hegel's central point. He said everything must be understood as both a subject and a substance. Both. It's as much substance as subject. It's as much a concept as it is a reality. Reality and its concept are not diverse. They're different, but they're not unrelated. They're intimately related. And that identity of the concept or the thought and the thing is essential to when we're speaking about reality. And if that we don't make that connection, if we ignore that connection, then that is ignorance. We're just not understanding what's going on when we're talking about things and forgetting that it's also connected with the thought of the thing.
But if I may use Hegel here again, like, I agree with what you say, but from a purely methodological view, I think Hegel would also say that you can't simply assume the whole to begin with. That is why he always he starts his logic and he starts the phenomenology with what appears the most simple, you know, he wants to do it without presuppositions.
Yes.
Then he moves on to see where he can go with each category until it dissolves itself. And then finally he gets to the final stage and he realizes that absolute knowing is only this method of getting knowledge. It's not actual like knowledge of everything. It's knowledge of the process of how you get knowledge in a way. So therefore, he also has he starts with the simple, and then when he arrives at the method, he goes back to what's simple, and then it's just, he starts at that point, and the whole process is basically just, how do you say, like, to make the first point more, to open up the first point and see all the implications of it, you know? So you could say that through looking at parts, you could try to do something similar. You can see how far you can go with looking at the part in isolation, not thinking that it is isolated, but see how far you can go with it. And then you can see, okay, probably it is impossible to understand this part. But I guess the problem for modern science is that they thought that they could understand the part in this way. And then when they ended up like having some impasse, they would simply ignore it and just like, yeah, but you know, like this is nonetheless like they would focus on what they already knew instead of pushing it further, you know?
Yes. Anyhow, but Hegel, when he wrote his phenomenology, was aware of the importance of the whole. If you read that statement that the truth is the whole, he states this in the preface to his phenomenology. So he already went through that process, and what he was describing is how that process occurs from a systematic, like you're saying, from a part to the whole. But he already understood. He already understood the whole. Right?
But you can imagine scientists doing something similar and saying like, I try to operate without too many presuppositions, you know, and then you see how far you can go. But the problem is that I guess that they haven't been pushing it necessarily. They haven't been willing to go further in many cases. You know, it goes back to what we were discussing earlier with like Richard Dawkins, you know, like that he didn't want to expand kind of his perspective, you know, because it worked within the limited confines that he had defined in advance, you know.